So I want to challenge you this morning with something. I want you to reflect on something this morning. I'm sure we've all had this experience in our life at one point or another. I want you to think this morning and try to remember a time in your life when someone has done something for you that was totally unsolicited. You didn't ask for it. Unsolicited and way above and beyond your particular need at that moment. Somebody just knew that you needed help or needed something. In that situation, when someone surprised you with this extreme act of kindness that you felt unworthy to receive, sometimes even uncomfortable, because we struggle with receiving, don't we? From our portion this morning, we are introduced to a woman in the scriptures who was willing. Was willing. You know how I know she was willing? Because she ran. She didn't walk. She didn't drag her feet. She ran to help. Willing to go above and beyond what was required. And in doing so, realize the greatest blessing of her life. See, the irony of our Parsha Chayei Sarah, of the life of Sarah, is that we begin the portion with her death at 127 years old. Now that's a long life. Who, by the way, is the only woman in Torah whose age is given at death. Only one. And Avram, no doubt, ever more sensitive to his own mortality, he now recognizes before it's too late, he's got to make some arrangements. He's got to make arrangements to secure for his son Yitzhak a wife. And so he entrusts his mission with his chief servant, his faithful servant, his entrusted servant, Eliezer. And who better than one whose name in Hebrew means helper of God? Avraham loads up 10 camels full of gifts to take to her, whoever she may be at this moment. And before departing, he insists that Eliezer swears an oath to stay away from the Canaanite women. Stay away from those girls. And only choose from Avram's own people. And that narrows the field, of course. Those of us that are believers who are single, it narrows the field significantly. And then you crazy people who do it this way, the way Yeshua, worship on Saturday and don't observe Christmas and Easter, you're a mess. Who's out there for you? So the field is very narrowed. It seemed really an impossible mission. An impossible mission to convince a young woman, this is the story he's going to tell her. He's going to convince this young woman to leave her family, friends, homeland with a perfect stranger and travel with this perfect stranger a great distance to marry a man she has never seen nor met. Sound like a good deal for all you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who's going to go with that one? No. But God does not want one holy and set apart like Yitzhak to be unequally yoked with the ungodliness of the Canaan people or Canaan woman. And there's an obvious dimension here of the impossible attached to this journey. This is an example, once again, of God calling us to do something that requires extreme faith. So, off they go. Off they go from Haran, and after about 17 days of traveling, approximately, I'd say about 435 miles, they arrived outside of Nahor. Now, what they just traveled for 17 days would be the equivalent of you right now packing it up and walking to Philly. Because that's what happened here. They walked to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Okay? Most of you wouldn't walk up the roads to... And it was getting close to evening when they arrived. The time Eliezer figured that the ladies would be coming to the well to draw water. And he climbed off the camel and he prayed. He prayed first, as we all should do before we encounter to do anything. And so he prays, because the success of this task that requires extreme faith, this impossible task, depended upon God's intervention. God had to intervene. There's no other possibility of its success unless he did. The Torah says before he had finished speaking, if you ever prayed a prayer like that, before you're finished speaking the prayer, came the answer. Came the answer to prayer. Rivkah, the daughter of Bethuel, which was Avram's nephew. He was a son of Avram's brother, Nahor. And he shows up at the well with a jug on her shoulder. Well, she does. A very beautiful girl we just read from Scripture. Eliezer runs to meet her. Now, she's probably sitting there going, this guy's kind of creepy. What's he running over to me for? But here's where we see the world has it all wrong. A typical guy would offer her a drink, right? But here Eliezer asks her for a drink. She says, well, sure, drink, my lord. And she pours him a drink. And then she says, let me take care of those camels too. And she proceeded to draw water from the well till all the camels had their fill, Scripture says. Men, we can especially understand why Eliezer gazed in silence. We would be astounded too these days by that kind of hospitality. To offer over and above what was needed or requested. Any of you have ever had a business? We're going to touch into that. Talk to anybody who owns a business today. Talk to anybody. This is the attitude today of people. You would be even more astounded at the immensity of what she has offered to do. For us today, it's simply be a matter of, let's turn on the faucet and water them down. But for Rivkah, the task entailed her drawing from a well enough water to fill 10 camels. Now, I know we don't deal with a lot of camels in this neighborhood here, right? Heck, again, like I said, I'm a suburb guy. I don't know what, barely can handle a dog, let alone a cow or livestock or anything. Camels, what do you do with a camel? But in that culture, they understood. And they understand that a camel is going to drink in 10 minutes between 20 and 30 gallons. Now multiply that times 10. So we're probably talking anywhere from about an hour and a half to 2 hours it's going to take her to fill up these animals. And again, like I told you, she ran to do it. She'd go, okay, I'll water those stupid camels too. No, she hustled to do it. Right? She has committed herself to 2 hours of labor to a perfect stranger to do far more than she was originally asked to do. He just wanted a drink of water, and she offers to do the camels too. Now, at best, some of us might have said hello to the man. A few of us might have offered him a drink of water. Even fewer of us would have told him, well, you can, here's the bucket, help yourself, But how many of us would have committed ourselves to hours helping someone we don't know and will likely never see again? Most of us are not motivated to do more and get nothing for it. And that's because we have been conditioned to do the least that's necessary in order to get the maximum benefit possible. You've probably heard the phrase, well, what's in it for me? Right? You heard that? Well, what's in it for me? Because it's the attitude today. Well, what's in it for me? You know what we call that? We call it Christianity. We do. Yep. Because the church today is really about doing the least they can do to get into the kingdom. That's why Torah has been rejected. The least we can do to get into the kingdom. We will even get upset when others are going above what we think is the minimum. Well, who do you think she is coming here working so hard, trying to make us look bad? She's just trying to kiss up to the boss. And that's how Christians respond to us followers, doers of the way of Messiah. If someone had seen Rivkah doing all that she was doing, I guarantee you that she actually would have been criticized. Brothers and sisters, when you go above and beyond what is asked or required, people are going to criticize you. Why do you do that? Right? You've heard it. Everyone's heard that. You don't have to do that. Why do you do that? You're going to be criticized, but don't let that stop you, because that's where the Spirit of God is calling you to be. Everywhere we go, we are representing Yeshua. And the Spirit of Messiah is never about being sloppy or being lazy and doing just enough to get by. That's not the Spirit of God. The Spirit of Messiah is about doing all that we can do for the kingdom. The Spirit of Messiah is about being sacrificial, about doing more than what the required minimum to get into the kingdom. We need to ask ourselves this morning whether the Yeshua we're showing in the world is one who's willing to give his best to those he encounters. Yeshua put it like this in Luke 16:10. If someone is trustworthy in a small matter, you will be trustworthy in the larger matters. And you may not think that your behavior on the job or at school has anything to do with your walk with Messiah. The reality is God has you where he has you because that's where he needs you to reach someone that's lost.
That's right.
And I've said countless times, I don't particularly like the other job that I had. I do it. I'm grateful for it. But I know that it's much larger than that. It's much bigger than that. God places us in situations that are not always our favorite, are they, Joe? Not always our favorite. But God has us there to be light in a very dark world. And to be a witness of the real, true way of Messiah. Someone is watching you. And what they see in you is going to determine not only their future, but may influence your own. Now, I so appreciated David's story. I had a similar encounter this week. Someone needed a car. So instead of going to work at a normal time to go, I got real early and I went to the auction. Went to the Aconauta auction. See, maybe I could score a car. And so I went. I didn't really see anything that I was impressed with, I was going to bid on. So I left, went to work. Got later in the day, early evening, big family comes in, and I'm helping them, looking at mattresses. And one guy, after I talked to him for a little bit, he goes, "Hey, can I make an observation?" It kind of caught me by surprise. They go, "Okay, what may that be, He goes, "You were at the Aconauta auction today." And I said, "Why, yes, I was." "How do you know?" He goes, "Because I own it." He goes, "My grandfather built the business." I go, "Well, my grandfather was friends with my mother. Your grandfather was friends with my mother." And he goes, "Yeah, I know that lady." And so you don't know. You're standing at that auction. Who's watching you? Who's looking at you? Who's observing you? The things you're saying, how you're conducting yourself. You don't know. All right? And you don't know how that's going to affect your present circumstances or perhaps your future. So from the Ketuvim Shlachim, the New Testament, many traditional Christians have had a very negative view of Pharisees, haven't they? Proshim. You've heard of it. "Well, that's a Pharisaical spirit." I've heard that so many times. Careful what you say there, throwing them all under the bus. And like many of you that have been taught, many of the Pershim were actually very good people. Many of them were very good people.
That's right.
No different today. While many are genuinely called into ministry and have Yeshua's heart, there are many that are posers. We know that. Many that have all alternative agendas. We know that. And these counterfeits, which we have all experienced, would have the same attitude expressed in Luke 18:11. "Oh God, I thank you that I'm not like the rest of them." The rest of humanity, greedy and dishonest and immoral, or like that tax collector. "I fast twice a week. I pay tithes of my entire income. That's me, baby. I'm holy, I'm righteous." The problem with many of the Pershim was they thought their strict observance of Torah and their many righteous deeds alone would get them into heaven. Now, today we may say, "I know I'm not living up to what I should be doing, but as long as the Lord knows my heart, I'll be okay. Because I'm a relatively good person." But Yeshua didn't say anything about just having a heart that wanted to do something right. On the Sermon on the Mount, Yeshua taught that our righteousness should go above and beyond that of the Perushim. And like I said, many of them were actually very righteous men. Most of the Perushim, though, were scorekeepers. They would just do exactly what the Torah required, and nothing more, nothing less. Yeshua said a few verses before our reading this morning, unless your righteousness is far greater than that of the Torah teachers and the Perushim, unless it goes above and beyond what you are paid or requested to do so, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. Do you remember, just think about some of the tough sayings of Yeshua. Think about some of the tough sayings of Yeshua, and some of which we think actually Yeshua was kidding. He can't really mean that, could he? Like the illustration he gave from our apostolic writings this morning, that someone struck you in one of your cheeks to turn the other. Now I have to admit, I'd struggle with that one. I would struggle with that. But then again, you know what? Many of us, I really think you'd probably take that first smack and say, I'm going to give you one here.
Yep.
But you better have a good explanation.
Yep.
You better have a really good explanation. But I'm telling you, that's a difficult one. If someone asks you for your shirt, all right, here you go. Are you really going to give them your coat as well? How many would really do that? And even if an arrogant Roman soldier asks you to schlep his equipment for 1 mile, and then he insists on you going the extra mile, how would you respond to that? Right? Here, you got this? Here, take this bag for me. Carry a mile. No, carry 2 miles. Are you just going to jump at the chance to do that? When Yeshua talked about going the 2nd mile, the people knew exactly what he meant. Jews were under a Roman authority, if you don't remember at that time. There were no Humvees. If I was a Roman soldier, I could go to anybody's house. I could go to anybody's house, knock on the door, hey, come out here for a minute. I want you to carry my gear. And there's nothing they could do about it. They'd have to do it. Carry my gear this mile. They couldn't fuss about it. They couldn't whine about it. They couldn't argue about it. And that's just the way life was. If you were under their authority, they owned you. They owned you for a mile for sure. And after 1 mile, our obligation fulfilled, we think, oh, let's dump the bags and move on. But what Yeshua is teaching us, shock the daylights out of them. And say, oh, no. You mind if I carry this 1 more mile? He's ordered you to do it 1 mile, and he's got you. But what if he just turned around and said, no, I want to carry it another mile. Thank you, sir, may I have another? Right? You see, the 1st mile, like I said, he owned you, and you don't have any other choice. But in the 2nd mile, you own yourself. And you're in control of how you're going to let Yeshua shine on you. And Yeshua is saying the difference between someone of the way and someone who's not is that those of the way go above and beyond by voluntarily walking that 2nd mile. We do the extras that cause others to say, wait a minute, they don't have to do this. They don't need to do this. Why are they doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Right? All your brothers and sisters and friends are saying, you don't have to do this. Why are you doing this? People, Yeshua is calling us to be believers that go the extra mile. To be like our sister Rivka went above and beyond what was desired of her, requested of her. Imagine if I was willing to go the 2nd mile at work, which I do. Imagine if you did that at school, kids, if they were here. Can I do some extra credit work? What if you went the extra at home? Everybody has their sort of chores and responsibilities at home. What if you said, no, I know you don't want to do that. I got this tonight. I got this. Let me do it. Let me take care of that. What if you just went the extra for that? Your bosses, your teachers, your family members, What if you always wanted to do the extra? If you did that, I promise you, this place would be packed. Because they want what you have. They want to know what's in you. What is making you behave the way you do? What is causing you, when you don't have to do anything, to offer, to do above and beyond what most of us had trouble even requesting? It wouldn't be about me that would bring them in, I promise you. It would be about what makes you so different from the lazy who just gets by, the I'm entitled mentality that's everywhere in the world today. What troubles me is that many of our brothers and sisters aren't any different in the Lord. They are every bit as lazy and arrogant and demanding and undependable as the rest of the world. And it's sad. Instead of going above and beyond, we're the slackers, brothers and sisters. We're the slackers. If we are followers of Messiah, we are different. At least we're supposed to be. But sadly, most of us have this entitlement mentality when we walk into the doors of our congregations that we're entitled to go to heaven. We're entitled to be prayed for. We're entitled to be healed. We're entitled to get a word and an answer. We're entitled to God to do something in my life. That's our attitude. It's a me first attitude. It's enough that I confess Yeshua as Lord and Messiah and I'm in the door. And that's enough. Slackers. We're the ones that arrive late to services. We're the ones that sneak out early with others, believing God that we won't get caught. Or we're defending our extra lunch breaks because we're witnessing and reading the Word or praying. Remember, for the first 8 hours, you belong to your employer. That's right. If you're working 8 hours, you belong to him or her. If we want to be a witness on our jobs for Yeshua, you've got to give your maximum effort. You got to do your best. Believers are the early arrivers. Believers are the last to go. Believers are the hardest workers. Believers are the ones who look for something to do when they're not asked to do it, rather than waiting on somebody to demand it of them. That's what it is to have the Rivka spirit, the Messiah-like attitude. That's what I'm talking about this morning, to offer to pour the water, the extra water, to walk the second mile without question. Without question, for Rivka to fill, lift, and carry and pour all those buckets of water for 2 hours, she needed help. That's heavy and tiring. You know where her help came from? Thank you. Her help came from above. And she received the power that was needed to do some extraordinary hard work. And she said, I'll draw water for your camels too until they have finished drinking. And God's Spirit will help you to do things just a little bit better and a little bit longer if you just ask Him for it. But we won't know that or experience that if you don't show up. If you don't show up. Did you know that about 80% of being successful is just showing up?
Yeah.
Showing up faithfully every time you're supposed to show up for whatever it is you're supposed to show up for? I want to suggest 3 ways that we can show up in a Messiah-like way and go the extra mile as believers. And the first thing is that we are not to live our lives by the measuring rod. You don't live your life by the measuring rod. If we're living a life that's always measuring, you're missing what God told us to do. You don't measure it. You don't keep a record. You don't keep an account. Let me see. Oh yeah, they gave me a gift. I guess I got to give them one too. Right? Oh, I forgot my birthday. I'm cool. I can forget theirs now. Right? She didn't help me when I was down and out. I'm not going to help her. Right? Yeah, you owe me $5. I'll owe him $5. 50-50. Do your half and do mine. Right? And if you do exactly what you're supposed to do, and nothing more, let me just tell you, you haven't demonstrated anything. But the world, it's nothing about Messiah there. Nothing sacrificial there, right? If Yeshua had only done what he should have done, he would have never made it to the stake. We are called to go to the distance, to go the extra, right? You don't stop at the finish line. You run through the finish line.
Really,
The second thing is,
really.
we cannot walk the second mile until you've walked the first. You've got to take care of your responsibilities. You've got to walk the first mile before you start looking at the second. So many people want to do great things for God, and that's good. But they want to do it by working around the little things of God. I'm not patting myself in the back, but I'm just telling you, and David's right, so much of what our family does, you don't see it. This is just that much of what we pour in this ministry, what you see. And a lot of people don't want to do all that low-life stuff, the menial stuff. They want to go right to the top. Well, brothers and sisters, there's dues paying.
That's right.
There's
Amen.
dues paying
Amen.
in every industry, in every endeavor. We need to do a thorough job with what we have been given before we can do an excellent job or an extra job with that which we will be given. See, we haven't done a great job where we are. We can't do a great job where we think that we belong or should be going. People deceive themselves when they say, if I was in that class or I had that job, if I was in that position, I really would do my very best. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. The problem isn't in the job or the place, it's in us. We haven't handled the first part, the first mile well. And we need to do the routine things well before we concern ourselves with the extra things. And the third thing, besides the measuring rod and walking the first, extra blessings come from extra effort. Maybe a lot of you know that, but sometimes it's just got to be said and repeated. Extra blessings come from extra effort. In a marriage relationship, if every husband and every wife are willing to walk a second mile and do above and beyond for their spouse, and not just what's required or expected of them, just because we want to, we love them, I promise you divorce lawyers have to go out of business. Certainly they would have a tremendous decrease in their business. Because you have to ask yourself the question, why in certain cultures or traditions is the divorce rate so low? Why is that? Do they know something we don't? Perhaps they do. Perhaps they do. And maybe we should learn what that is. When you put the extra effort in, you will receive the extra blessings. I love the story of Clancy and his wife. They go to Counselor O'Neill after 45 years of marriage. I hear people in the furniture store all the time. We've been married 45, 50, 60 years. It's crazy. And they're always looking for a chair. They're always looking for a chair. Because they're not going to buy any more new furniture. So they've just worn out the chair. They need a new chair. Anybody's been married 50 or 60 years, you're just buying a new chair. What, am I wrong? They're not going to come in there and buy brand new living rooms. Well, I hear it all the time. They go, I probably got about 5. How do you know? Is there an expiration date on your birth certificate? How do you know how long you're going to live? And they're not buying a whole new living room set, bedroom set. They're not going to redecorate their house. It's not happening. But they burned out the recliner or the chair, so they're going to buy a recliner and a chair. And it's going to take them all day to find that perfect little chair with your cushion. Right? Like yours, kind of like Carol. Right? Like the recliner you got, right? Yeah. So, 45 years of marriage. And the counselor asks him what the problem is. The wife goes in, she rants. She goes into a rant, listing every stinking thing that he has done over the past 45 years they've been married. She goes on and on and on. And finally the counselor, he gets up and he walks around his desk. He walks up to her. He throws her in a big embrace and lands a serious lip smack and kiss on her, passionate. You know, gets up. The ladies are going, are you kidding me? He goes and sits down. The woman, like, immediately shuts up. She doesn't know what to say, right? O'Neill turns to Clancy and says, that's what your wife needs at least 3 times a week. Can you do that? The guy thinks for a moment. He goes, well, I get her here Mondays and Wednesdays, but Friday's my bowling. Friday's my bowling night. Can't do Fridays. A good marriage is one when the spouse does what he or she is supposed to do and then some. You hearing it? A good student is a person that does what the requirements are for the class and then some. Evan, what's your current score? What's your current grade point?
4.375.
And now when I went to school, it was 4 point.
Yes.
He's got a 4.3. Now what does that tell you? Have you done a little extra? Enough said. Yeah, that needs to be applied. Darn proud of that young man. 4.3. 4.3. I didn't get a 3. 4.3. Thank goodness for President Bush. Even C students can become rabbis. Can you do that? Yeah. A good employee is a person who does more than the job requires and then some, arriving earlier and staying longer if needed. A good member is one who offers to help where needed and then some. A good parent or a child is one who does what he or she is supposed to do and then some. You're kind of getting it, aren't you? And a good follower of Yeshua is one that spends each moment committed to doing what God desires them to do and then some. Don't despise the little tasks that you have to do. Every evening, Rivka went down to the well long before Eliezer showed up. She'd go down to the well, did that very same thing, day after day after day, drawing water out of the well and taking it back to her family. Boring, menial task. Nothing's happened out here in Knoxville. This is a deadbeat town. I'm going to L.A. And that was her life. It was day in, day out. Stories told of a contractor who was needed to hire a supervisor. He put out a help wanted sign. Help wanted! Good potential for the future. He agreed to pay a man a decent salary for doing one thing: moving bricks. Moving bricks. He told the man, move these bricks over there. Here, over there. And when they got finished, he said, now I want you to move those bricks back to where they were. I was thinking, he's paying me, what the heck? That's what he wants me to do. I'll move the bricks back, okay? Well, he started to get a little frustrated with this job. So he quit. Went to the boss, he said, I quit. I'm not going to keep doing this stupid thing over and over and over. And he hired probably 5 more other guys to do the same thing. And every one of them, maybe told them to move the bricks from here to there, and then move it back. They did it a few times. Said, this is ridiculous. And I quit. Went through 5 guys. Just nobody would stick it out. And then finally, Dave. Dave said, I'll take the job. And as required, he moved the bricks from here to there, and then he moved them back. And he did it time and time again. And they asked Dave, man, dude, why don't you quit that job? It's the worst job. And Dave tells his friends, he goes, look, I don't know, man. It's not my fault he can't make up his mind where he wants his bricks. But on the 4th day, Dave didn't even go to see the boss arriving. He simply did his job. He just picked up the wheelbarrow, headed for the bricks. The boss says, Dave, come here, I want to talk to you. He said, yes, sir. I want to offer you the job of supervisor. He says, I've been looking for somebody that would be faithful with my orders, that would do faithfully what I asked them to do. Too often, we don't get the positions that God wants to give us because we despise the little things that God wants us to do. Because he's looking for somebody faithful. He's looking for somebody faithful who will do what he wants us to do. And it's so sad. Because you know what? As much as we think there's so many godly people out there, not really. Because a lot of them just don't want to do completely what God wants them to do. I mean, really. Don't wait for the big moments of life to decide if you're going to go the extra mile. Yeshua said, for the measure with which you measure out will be used to measure back to you. Now, I don't know about you, but I think it's more than just coming up to the altar and saying, oh, Jesus saved me, and then, I'm going to the kingdom. I think it's a lot more than that. I think that God really knows what he wants us to do and how he wants us to do it. And sometimes it seems so menial and ridiculous. Sometimes we think, oh, everybody's telling me I don't have to do that. That really, I just have to do the bare minimum because I'm going to the kingdom. I confess I'm out and believe in my heart, so I guess I'm going to heaven. It should be enough, right? Right? But then what do you do with those people that you should have talked about that said, many said, Lord, Lord, I didn't know you. What do we do with those people? It sounds like a relationship going on here. Because knowing is relationship. A relationship, I believe, comes from a Rivka spirit. Going the extra mile. Doing the things that God would be pleased with and would desire us to do. So in closing, little did Rivka know what was in store for her. Think about it. Did she have any idea all those years just schlepping that water for her family? Did she have any idea? She didn't realize that this one action would determine her destiny. This stupid little menial task would determine her destiny. By going that second mile, she sealed it. She would become the great, lots of greats, grandmother of Messiah Yeshua. Of the Messiah. And think of it, when she said those words at that very moment, something clicked in the plan of God. And she became part of God's plan for the salvation of you and I. She's in that lineage. That faithful little girl who just wanted to go the extra mile and be a blessing. And that's the essence of the story. It's not deep theology here. I'm not going to dazzle you with all kinds of Hebrew nuances. But there's a message here. She didn't know what was going to happen. You should have said that in the final judgment, the sheep will say, Lord, again, we didn't know we were giving you food. We didn't know that we were giving you drink or clothes. We didn't know. We didn't know we were loving you. We didn't know that we were healing you. Of course not. And that's the point. That's the point. The same thing happens, brothers and sisters, to you and I when we go the extra mile in the spirit of Yeshua. We become part of the divine chain of events that may lead to a changed and a redeemed life for someone by just doing the mile at least, and maybe even the extra mile. I want to share with you something this morning. I think it's important I share this with you because we're a body. We're a congregational body. Right? I want to share with something. I want to share with you exactly what happens as a congregational body when we individually have a Rivka spirit and are faithful for the first mile and then offering to go the second mile. How, as a congregation, you might not know, because of your faithfulness, how we've been able to go above and beyond being a blessing. You don't even know. You have no idea. A month ago, there was a plea for money. Family was in a desperate situation. There was an attack to the ability to make money, attack to the health. And suddenly, they had nowhere to look but up. Help me, Lord. Well, those who are faithful in their day-to-day giving, we were able to write them a check for $1,000. We were able to go above and beyond. That didn't fix the problem, but it helped in that moment of stress, that moment of fear. We were able to do that. You want another story? Huh? Anybody want some more stories? I got more. Okay, good. Because of your increased giving to missions. You know, often we ask you to give specifically for missions, and we said we were supporting Israel. We're getting so much more now, we decided to start, was it Honduras? Now we're supporting Honduras too. This little group. We're sending money now to help people in Honduras. Just basic needs of life. Medical needs. Every month. So we're able to send now money to Israel, and now we're able to send money to the Honduras. Because you have a Rivka spirit and are faithful to just what the boss has asked. But because you're faithful to what the minimum, the menial, we're able now to go above and beyond, to go the extra mile as a congregation. Oh, let me give you some more. Bishop Oguko was here. Came here to minister to us from Kenya. Anybody ever been to Kenya? Mike Carpenter's wife has. And she knows what the conditions is like there. Right?
Yes.
Well, it's not easy for a bishop to come here, you know. We sent him home about $1,000. You think they can use it in Kenya?
Yes.
Yes. I'm not bragging. I'm affirming your faithfulness. I'm affirming when you are faithful with the little things and the desire to go above and beyond, we can do amazing things. Well, I got another one. If you're all day. Lady, and none of these people, none of these situations are somehow, you know, what's in it for us? No. Lady needs a car, on dialysis, has to ride a bus in this weather. In the rain, stay out in the rain, ride a bus. Single one, nobody there to help her. On dialysis. Thought we could maybe fix her car. Oh, this car was a train wreck. I mean, I said, man, we can't fix this car. This thing's bad. So we junked the car. But we took the money that we got for junking the car and added a little bit to it, bought our car. Just got that being fixed. My friend's garage. We'll give it to her this week. She's got a car now. Because we could go above and beyond because this congregation has a Rivka spirit. That's the fruit of your faithfulness. You have to hear that. It isn't just about paying your tithes. Pastor's probably buying jet airplanes with it. Not yet. So, yeah, that's what's a tough. Actually, going next week. I wanted you to hear that. I wanted to hear that when you are faithful to the first mile, we can as a group go above and beyond in blessings. Isn't it amazing? And you consider the fact that most of what takes place in the congregation, 80% of what takes place is only about 20% anyway. I mean, that's the fact. Pastor Mooney, you know that, right? You've heard that a million times, right? He knows it. We know it. You know, it's the truth. It's sad, but it's true. But think about it. Think about those blessings right there that we were able to accomplish. I love it. That's the best part of this job. It is. I love this. And I want to share it with you because it should be all me. I get the opportunity to make the decisions, but nonetheless, I want you to know. I want you to share in the blessing. I want you to know what your faithfulness has brought, how it's brought blessing into people's lives. It's awesome. It's awesome what we can do. I'm sure Rivka was tired. Lord knows, tired at the end of that long day, drawing 200 to 300 gallons of water from that well. But in the end, came a reward for her faithful diligence. Bryant H. McGill said this: the bare minimum will get you a bare minimum life. No, not wife, life. Bare minimum will get you a bare minimum life. Oh, real trouble there. Let's get that off the tape real quick. It's because I'm always thinking of my wife. The bare minimum will get you a bare minimum life. No, I can't do any better. I'm happy with what I got. But going above and beyond will launch you above and beyond. That's just the truth. My hope is that this week when you are at work or school, shopping, whatever you do, whatever it is you do, that you might find yourself in someone who requests something of you. Maybe we shouldn't even wait till somebody requests. And you will say without hesitation to your friend or your enemy, sure, I'm glad to help. And then offer if there's anything else that I might do. Not just what they asked, but over and above. When we go the extra mile for each other, this is the heart of Messiah.